What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of Immortal Minds. And it's going to be an interesting one because we don't have quite as many clips today, but we will be discussing competitive and a lot more. So, of course, joining me as always, we've got Sean. What's up, Sean? How you doing?
Up? What's up? What's up? Yeah, I'm doing all right. Been super tilted lately, but mainly that's because my ISP being dog shit. But yeah. Other than that,
Yeah, RSVs during the quarantine, definitely an issue for a lot of people. How about you, Mike? How you doing? Is your internet holding up?
Internet's good. Also tilted after playing like 12 ranked games yesterday, so
Perfect. I mean, that's we're going to be talking about that. So, um, I mean, that's we can just start the show right there. Competitive has been released. A lot of people were really excited to get it out there, and I think what's interesting to me is that I'm really surprised continually by how quick Riot is to actually implement stuff that people kind of want. Because I could really see them just not putting it, competitive in, just leaving it as unrated, just continually stress testing the servers and developing the game with unrated. There was no real reason for them to necessarily put competitive in, but they did it. And I don't know if are we happy that they did it? I don't know yet.
yeah, it's hard to say, right? Because you could see like the second ranked came in, the cheaters went up like tenfold. It felt like people from Korea started five stacking to try to get the highest rank, and you started to realize there's tons of flaws in the game. Um, as far as like the networking goes, like that's when the peakers advantage problem really hit like a high for me. So I don't know. I think it's very good that they're getting all this out in beta, and I think they stated that the ranks are going to be reset when the game gets released, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I think this is just like a stress test for them, see like what they should improve. I don't even know how I feel about like how quickly people were able to get the immortal rank and how quickly they can climb up the ranks. Part of me likes that because if you're placed in the wrong rank, you can quickly hop out of it and rank up. But then part of me is like, well, shit, it's like if it's so easily changed in like one bad day or one good day, you can be completely off of where you should be. So I don't know if I like it or not.
Yeah, it's weird as well because I think the immediate glaring issue, which you feel like people could have predicted before putting this kind of thing in, is as you say, like there's all these people who are taking it super seriously and stacking teams, and you have a lot of people that want to play competitive and are perhaps good players, but they're playing in solo queues or duo queues and so on, and so this is one of the huge glaring issues because obviously there's such in a game like this, like a tactical FPS, there's such a huge difference between stacking and not stacking. And this is clearly like you're just going to, like, I think you were playing loads of games, Mike, and just running, like, as a solo queue and running into constant stacks. Like, what can you do about that? Like, feels a bit unreasonable.
yeah, like most of them were like main like advanced MDL players too from CS, so it's like they're used to playing in a team environment, and I just have like four random guys that are from Overwatch and Fortnite that are just doing their own random shit and not commenting, so
Yeah, that's literally the exact experience I had yesterday. So yesterday I started my day solo queuing. I hopped into a game and I asked everyone on my team. Everyone on my team said they solo queued. We were playing against a five stack of professional players from Korea, like names I recognize like Glow and Stacks from MVP, and like these are professional CS players that are queuing from Korea with like almost 200 ping. They were impossible to beat because of the peaker's advantage in this game. They were just wide peak angles, and it really showed me like how broken the game's netcode is when you have really high ping like that, and how you have to change the way that you play against them. It didn't seem fair at all. Like it seemed like they had an advantage, which is so bizarre. I mean, on top of the fact that it's unfair that I'm solo queuing with a bunch of solo queuers and we play a five stack, that was ridiculous to me. I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to go through was some of the issues that have come up as you mentioned, and I think that's always an interesting discussion point. Is like, how does competitive game, handle its anti-lagged netcode? Because there's a couple of different ways you can kind of look at it. Because normally, an anti-lagged netcode has this idea of backwards reconciliation, which is this effect that on my screen on client side, I'm gonna shoot you. Let's say I have 500 ms for the sake of this example, and you've got 100 ms. I'm going to shoot you. And then, you've done a bunch of shit within that 400 ms difference of me sending my data to the server and then the server sending data to you. So your client's updated. And then all of a sudden, like, so, you got around that corner, you're safe. But on my screen, I headshot you. And then, 400 milliseconds later, you die, right? So this is like a really extreme idea of backwards reconciliation. And so this is like what you're explaining, Sean. You can, even if it's like you have 50 ms and they have 200, you can clearly feel this. Like it just completely changes the game, and it's extremely frustrating and unintuitive. So I do wonder, like, because in Counter Strike, for example, there's kind of like a weird cutoff at some point. I don't know where it is. It's like somewhere after 100 ms, I think, like around 150 or something like that. But you can kind of, it feels a bit more intuitive in CS. Like it doesn't feel as broken. So I do expect that they will actually fix this.
Yeah, dude, the craziest thing. So this is actually where it gets crazy. So the first 2 games I played yesterday, I solo queued, and I played the same Korean 5 stack. The third game I solo queued, I ended up part of their team. One of them left. I think it was like, I think Stacks left. So I solo queued into their 4 stack, and I was on their team, and I would just spectate them when I died. And it looked like they were reacting instantly. Like if I were to watch someone in Counter Strike react with like 200 ping, it looks like they're slow as fuck. When I was watching these guys in this game, it was like they had 20 ping. I didn't understand it. And I'm talking they were holding angles. Like I don't get how the netcode works in this game. I'm not claiming to be some, internet whiz, but I can say something was weird. Like they should not be able to win gunfights where they're just standing still with 200 ping when 30 pingers are flying into them, but they can, and it looks perfectly fine. I don't get it.
Yeah, I would expect, given the fact that as time goes on, um, I would imagine that Riot, in the interest of improving the experience, because this game is designed to be an esport from the ground up, there's going to have to be some kind of level of integrity in terms of like what is actually a reasonable range of pings that people could play on, so the experience makes sense. And I'd imagine that like things are going to be a bit more strict. There's going to be more server locations. Things will be better optimized. They might even put in something inside the game that actually proxies you automatically, because you can do that. All you have to do is just have like a bunch of servers set up as proxy servers, and within the game, it can then figure out how to best route you and whether to route you through multiple proxies if necessary to get you a good ping with no packet loss and stuff like that. That's completely possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if Riot put stuff like that in the future, but obviously it's still pretty early days. However, I don't know if it's related, but hit registration is obviously I've noticed it's definitely kind of an issue. There's been like a few weird moments that I've been consistently experiencing on my when I've been streaming the game. We've got a few clips here to run. Without putting these in slow motion, you won't be able to see that I'm completely stopped and accurate when I'm shooting these shots, and that actually nothing is landing at all. So we could, so Mike, if you can run some of these, we've got 3 clips here showing the broken hit registration. Okay, so this one is it looks pretty good at first. I get a bunch of hits, like 3 hits on the brimstone or whatever it was, or breach. Then every other bullet misses completely. And I think that this is like been happening like pretty consistently. So all those bullets on the raise there, all of those miss. Completely reset gun. The crosshair's dead on her. I'm standing completely still. Every single bullet actually misses and doesn't register as a hit.
Seems
Same
a
thing
bit
here.
reasonable.
The crosshair on the far right target, the brimstone, was dead on. I was dead at the stop. I checked this at like 25% speed, and the same thing with the jet that jumps onto the box. I'm still. I flick up. I shoot 3 times. Only get one connection, just dead on the center of her model. That
Dude,
shot as well, completely stopped, dead on the center of Cypher's model. No hit as well.
dude, I actually saw. Oh, here it is. Here it is right here. Now I'm gonna put. I don't even think that this is possible for Mike to play this video. I'm gonna show it to you in the general channel right now in our Discord. Look at this video. This head hitbox for Jet. Have you seen this? So I'm gonna also post it in the Twitch chat right now. This is insane.
I can throw it on quick. Just give me a sec.
Like I saw this on the front page of the Reddit yesterday, and I'm just like, What? Dude, this guy is headshotting the Jet in her like mid back. I don't even understand. Like what is going on with the hitboxes right now? Like they're very
Yeah.
weird. So I I agree. Something is weird with the hitboxes, and it could be like the whole netcode thing. It's just they need to fix all that shit. That's what beta's for. So like I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be like super harsh on them, but yeah, I have noticed like there are weird problems with registration. Now that could be also because my internet's been awful. So
Yeah.
that's why I haven't really said anything like publicly. But when I saw this thread yesterday, I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy."
Yeah. I've also, like you, this is it seems quite strange because there's a lot of players from the West Coast, but like you, I mostly am playing on like between like 80 and 90 ms, and which seems really strange because there are lots of great servers for the West Coast, but I think if I'm in a game with anyone that's from anywhere that's not West, even Central, for some reason it throws us onto like a Central server where the routing is not very good, and you know you have the same situation. Although you have like all the weird rubber banding and packet loss on top of that, Sean. I think you've also been getting like the same servers as me, so it's pretty odd.
Yeah, it's weird. We'll play with like a stack of like three West people and like one Central person, and it'll default us into like a Central server, and we all have like 80-ish ping besides the person that's Central. But you would think it would take like the average of all of our pings and put us on a West server because that's where the average would be lower. I don't understand like what kind of algorithm they're running here to decide which server to play on.
There's a couple more things I want to kind of briefly go over because I think it's important to kind of stay up to date. I like that in this show we're kind of going through and experiencing issues and things that are good, things that are bad as they come up. And so I think we have to talk about cheaters a little bit, and also Vanguard, mostly because people have brought this up as a. There are some people kind of bringing this up repeatedly, like the Vanguard thing. Do you have any first impressions on cheaters and vanguards? And when I say vanguard, I mean like the angle of is it a security risk, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Uh, I can't really comment on the whole security risk thing because I mean I'm just so stupid when it comes to that kind of stuff. I just know I don't want cheaters in my video games, and I'm okay running it until I don't even know. Like I don't know. Like I don't have enough to comment on the whole security thing, but I can say that I've had cheaters in my games and I've reported them and they have been banned before the end of the game. So it's doing its job, right? What it is doing right now in beta is it's learning. It's learning like what cheats look like in this game, and it's learning all of the different cheats that are being thrown at it. I think it's doing an excellent fucking job. It's not like we're just gonna throw in an anti-cheat and we would just have no cheaters in this game. That's not realistic in my opinion. I think what it's doing is it's learning about all these cheats that are released in beta, and then hopefully by the launch of this game, there will be so few that work, and even the few that do work won't be able to get to like the Valorant rank. Unlike CS, where you can play a matchmaking in CS and you can be global elite, and probably like 90% of your games are gonna have fucking cheaters in it. It feels like, hopefully that's not going to be the case in the future because this anti cheat will learn over time.
Yeah, it's actually you raised a few interesting points there. Firstly, on the Vanguard thing, something I've been saying on my stream a little bit is because there's a lot of people who are kind of, I would say, fear mongering around it because there's a lot of services that do use kernel level anti cheats. Firstly, I'm not an expert at all by any stretch of the imagination, but one thing to consider as well is if there was a huge security issue, Riot is going to be the one where all their users are going to get absolutely rammed and just completely owned by a security breach, of which then I don't know where the liability will fall. I don't know what the law is. If it's like there's like a way that they can kind of exclude themselves from liability, even if it's in the terms of service or something. I don't even know. That's a completely different question. But I very much doubt it's in Riot's interest for all of their users to get absolutely wrecked by some security issue that's
Yeah.
apparently so easy to exploit.
So
That's going to be a bad look for them.
So I brought up this exact thing on my stream. I'm like, yeah, that seems like it'd be pretty bad. Like they wouldn't want that to happen, right? And someone on my chat was like, "What are you talking about, man? Big companies have security breaches all the time, and they just brush it off, and nothing ever happens." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Actually, like
It's a good point. Yeah.
yeah, like it happens all the time, and like no one gives a fuck." So I don't know. Like I don't like I said, I'm not informed enough to like make a hard stance on this topic.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like a lot more complex than people want to kind of make it. So either way, I think as you say, like the last thing is the way that an anti cheat also works is that it cannot like it has to be reactive. It cannot be proactive unless we're like in Minority Report, which we're not. It can't predict the future. It's like any virus that comes up in real life, right? You have to get hit by it and then develop the antibodies and so on. Like it's exactly the same. People have to code the cheats. They can't know what the coders are going to be coding before they've coded the cheats. So anyway, moving forwards, we've had a lot of FPS issues as well that have been introduced. Most notably on Sage, which should be present every game because Sage is pretty essential in every composition at the moment. And also, I think it's gunshots and bullet holes. From what I see, all those things now since the 0.49 patch tank the FPS. I've noticed a lot less Sages in the games, but I've been picking Sage a lot because I believe that her extra ability now is to drop everyone's FPS. So you just
You
throw those
rat.
you just throw
You
the orbs in, man, and no one can shoot you. It's amazing.
Dude, it's
Try it.
crazy. The FPS issues, like, I don't even know. I feel like everyone has the FPS issues, so I don't even bother complaining about it. But I mean, you and I have literally NASA comps. We have God comps. I just built my comp, and it's pretty ridiculous. It's a 2080 Ti 3900. It's a great motherboard. I barely breach like 200 FPS, and I drop into the hundreds a lot. And that's all my settings on low. Like it's this game needs to be optimized a little bit better for high performance like rigs for sure. It definitely needs some optimization. It's beta. It's not a big deal to me. I think they'll fix that over time. CS was the same way. It was pretty bad and pretty harsh on FPS at the start, and over time it just gets better and better. So I'm not too worried about it right now, but yeah, it's annoying to deal with, especially the whole Sage thing.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end. I think of the gripes of the recent week in terms of issues with the game. One cool thing, you kind of touched on this previously. One cool thing is that as things are still moving. COVID hasn't stopped the movement completely of the deployment of Riot's infrastructure. Brazil and South Korea, it was announced a couple of days ago, will be joining the closed beta on the 5th. And that's really interesting. I know that Oceania and Japan will be a bit further out than that, but Brazil and South Korea, two huge esports regions. Brazil in CS:GO is enormous, an enormous region, and it's taken very seriously there. So it's very cool that they're getting into the closed beta in South Korea as well. I do wonder like what the Asian presence will be like in this game in comparison to CS:GO. This is a really interesting area because CS:GO, we all know the Asian CS has always lagged behind enormously.
Yeah, I'm scared, dude. They're both of those regions are going to be like our overlord game. I'm telling you, like they're going to be so goddamn good because I played against that Korean five stack yesterday, and they already had better coordination than any five stack that I play. Even with like 150 ping, they were like pre-slowing stuff. They had set abilities that they were tying in with each other. They take this game very goddamn seriously, and I can tell by how they play League and their effort that they put in. It's gonna take a little bit, I think, for them to catch up because we had the beta first. But when they do, it's gonna be hard to catch back up to them because of the work that they're gonna put in.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's really interesting too. I've been actually going back and watching some of the Brood War recently, like the new ASL. I don't know. I don't think you guys watch any Brood War, any StarCraft, but the whole culture, like the esports culture in South Korea, is so it's so serious. I mean, firstly, culturally speaking, the work ethic is is not really comparable to the Western work ethic by default. And on top of that, they take esports extremely seriously. So I'm expecting to see some really sick teams coming out of the Asian regions, so specifically South Korea. I think they could have some really, really awesome teams because this game is so team play oriented. You can't do quite as much as an individual in this game, but you can obviously still have a huge impact and make huge plays as an individual. And those regions already had great, those are players with great mechanics. Um, it's hard to say, if we will see something different to CS. Maybe it's just this is just speculation that doesn't really won't come to fruition, and it'll be like CS. But we have every reason to believe now they're going to have a huge pool of players to actually drive up the competitive level. Because one of my theories was always that they lagged behind in the CS:GO ecosystem because they just didn't have the proliferation of information like we do, because English isn't a language that is accessible to them. We have so much info now, like even
Yeah.
all the commentators and stuff, like just stuff that they may be saying like is going to be useful, that's information that like about like defaulting and rotations that in the Asian region you can see that's information they don't have. So
Yeah. If their test, their like them playing will be the stress test for what type of esport this game will be, right? Because like you said, they struggled in CS with the whole rotation aspect and just the stuff that we take for granted as like, that we see when we watch like European CS, right? Like just how they move around the map and not even just using utility, just how they support each other around the map. You watch an Asian team play it and it wasn't as polished as that for years. And it's finally close to it after several like Western coaches went over to Tyloo and stuff like that and brought their breed of CS like over there, blah, blah, blah. But this this will be an interesting test because I think they'll come at this game with like crazy synergy with abilities and combos like onto sites. And I want to see if it works because I don't think that they'll have better rotations than a lot of these Western CS players that are going to switch over to this game. But I think their synergy with abilities and with themselves, like on the team, will be significantly better. So it'll be a total clash of styles in this game, I think.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see actually, like once we get China and China money, you know, into Valorant, like how are they going to be paying like big dollars to like not just take across players from the West? Again, I don't know how the esports is going to be structured, but if it's like a system where like you can get players from Europe and North America over to China and so on to be in your team, is that going to be a thing? Is it going to be a thing to like pay the big bucks to try to get the coaches across to try to like level up the region as quickly as possible? It's gonna be really interesting to find out. Either way, one of the purposes of this show, moving things forward a little bit, is it's called Immortal Minds for a reason. We have yet to get immortal because, I mean, for me, I just haven't played that much
Diamond Mines.
competitive. Diamond Minds. But also, there's some other issues there as well. So we won't go into that right now. But the point is that we are going to be breaking down a lot of Valorant, how it plays at an esports level, but also trying to bridge the gap between that and where everybody else is in competitive to help you guys understand how to improve as players and improve as individuals and as a team as well. So competitive isn't necessarily in the most ideal state right now, a few days after its inception. That's fine. But Sean, where should people start? What are some good practices to begin with? If you're somebody coming into this game, maybe you don't have that CS background. Where
Yeah.
should you start in figuring out how to get better?
So I think after playing this game competitively in ranked, like I've been playing super seriously, I think there are several pieces of advice I would give to people. One, obviously, you need to work on your aim in the range. I would put the bots with like armor on medium setting and just try to shoot at them like you're going to shoot at an enemy, right? When you shoot an enemy in the game, rarely do I see people in this game one tapping with the vandal and shit like that. No, spray at them, and pretend like you're going to play them like they're actual people in the range, and also do something to practice like your stickiness of your crosshair when people move back and forth. You have a word for this. I don't remember you used it before. Like when people's
Tracking.
cross tracking, that's the word. Yeah. So you're tracking. So like hold your crosshair on one of the bot's heads and just run and jump around and keep it there. Try to keep it there. It's actually harder than you think, right? to coordinate your mouse movement with your jumps, your running, your strafing, moving all over the place. It'll help your tracking. That's like your aim, right? Second thing, every map decide ways that you're going to open up rounds, right? Say you want to play Garage as Omen, right? Like this is what I'll do. I will teleport on top the box in Garage on Haven. Or sometimes I will just smoke the garage door and I'll go play C because I know that no one's going to come through the smoke for the first 30 seconds. You should have ideas of how to open up rounds. And I don't even mean going for picks. I just mean how are you going to approach your spot for the first 10 seconds of the round when people can actually hit it? Find out if people are going to your spot in the first 10 seconds, right? This is what I do in CS as well. Everyone in CS has anti-rush protocols, and then they have anti-execute protocols, and then they have anti-fake protocols. And you have to go through them throughout the round, right? You can't just approach your spot and be like, all right, I'm at B on Haven now. I'm just gonna just stand here. Or like, say you're like a Brimstone playing Bind, right? Are you going to be the Brimstone that plays short A and just refreshes the smoke 3 times? If so, ask your teammate who plays short A with you to actually play somewhere else because you can hold that smoke all by yourself, right? That is your setup. Your setup is continuously smoking that frees up room for one of your teammates, right? Like all of this stuff should be thought out across every map, across every spot, and you can switch spots, right? That's how this game should be approached. But I don't see that. I just see a bunch of people just running around like kind of trying to use their abilities on the fly, doing random stuff, not really sure about how to open up rounds, buying random guns. Like it's it's all just randomness. Like they're just reacting on the fly. Like, oh shit, there's a guy long A this round. Let's use our abilities to kill him. No, like smoke the center of long A, take long A, push him into the site. Now he's in the site every time. So now you have some form of consistency. Now you know where he is, and you can use all your abilities to execute on that A site. But if you just dry peek him long A, then you'll never even get to that point, you know? So I don't know. Those are my main takeaways is aim, focus on what you're doing at the start of rounds.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you're talking about there as well is effectively like communication, because if you're not stacking, even if you are stacking with a bunch of teammates, then it's going to be really important to make sure that you're coming effectively, but also you're calling stuff to do, because in CS:GO, we have setups whereby okay, certain people might be more expected to throw more nades than others and
Yeah.
to set other people up more often than not. But in this game, every single agent has their own unique utility. So in that sense, as Sean was saying, like once you have an idea of the variety of ways you can use it offensively and defensively, and if you're kind of figuring that out, one thing that's really cool to do is you can actually even just get a notepad, watch some streams of some really good players, and just note like what do they do at the beginning of the rounds when they're playing a bit more
Yeah.
aggressively, like how do they do it, how do they use their abilities, take some notes on that, and then you can start to understand, okay, I can call, like in this example where you got the Brimstone smoking refreshing a single smoke on short A on binds, you can call then a showers push with a teammate, because you can be confident maybe they won't push that smoke. Now you can call something with a teammate. If you're a breach, you can call something with a flashbang, figure out a setup with a friend, communicate. That's super, super important, because in this game right now, people are obviously just mostly thinking about their own agent and what they're doing. And this is everything is about, and I've suffered from this a bunch of times where I'm just trying to like do so much by myself. And you shouldn't really be doing almost anything by yourself in this game.
Yeah.
It's there is definitely occasions for it, but mostly not.
So imagine this like half map setup on Haven, for example. Like you have a Brimstone playing B, you have a Breach playing Garage, and you have a Cypher playing C, right? You can have the other 2 players at A, whatever. Um, so the Brimstone smokes B main. So no one's probably going to come through that, but he'll hold it anyway, leaning towards the Garage side of B. You have a Breach playing in the like connector to C. And once they take Garage, he backs off into the C site. Cypher can obviously look through his camera, hold C. The second they take Garage, the Brimstone rotates to the Garage window. The Breach then flashes into Garage. The Brimstone peeks window, gets free kills into Garage, right? Like that's the kind of like basic teamwork and communication that needs to be in this game, right? Like just moving around like that. The breach should always have ideas of how to use his flashes. And I just like, and you should always calm them. Like it's just something that's so rare though when I play this game is like the breach never communicates like, yo, flashing around the corner, go, 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 go. Like that the breach needs to be the person that's like initiating the hits a lot of times. And I think breach will actually be like a massive fragger because of that. Because he's never going in first. He's throwing flashes to set up teammates. And if by chance his teammate gets killed, which probably will happen quite a bit because there's going to be setups by good teams, he'll be able to trade out those kills super easily in this game. Breach is going to be like a cold zero type player, in my opinion. And he also has an ult that knocks people off bombs and like takes control of whole maps. Like his character is just designed to just sweep up and communicate really well and help out his team. So that's why I really like Breach. We're going to talk about him next week a lot, but
Yeah.
I'll,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it's definitely think about the communication element of the agent that you're playing. Um, and there's I think we need to, especially like if you're playing competitive and you're not like playing as like set strats and stuff like that. Everybody is going to be responsible for calling plays. And one thing that we touched on, which is not quite relevant to this topic, which I think will be really interesting, is this idea that there'll be like huge rotations constantly on this defensive side of the setups, which I agree with. We haven't really been seeing it yet, but there's so much strength to doing that because of just how unexpected it is for the attackers. Like who the attackers want to get the info who's playing where. That's like the first thing you want to figure out. And this is another thing that if you're playing competitive, you need to figure out one of the things that can give you an advantage is this one piece of information on the buy rounds.
yeah,
Where is everyone playing? Now, if they have a cipher, you may expect them to be playing, B on bind or something like that, or B on split, but maybe that's not the case. You have to get that information. And then
yeah,
the other thing that's really important when you're playing against agents that have this defensive utility, such as Cypher with the cameras and the tripwires and everything, the cages, Sages with the walls and the slows, you have to pressure out that utility. If a Sage drops a wall at the beginning of the round, destroy the wall because it's just effectively being wasted in that sense. And it's super easy. It costs you almost nothing to do that, and you can do it safely. If Cypher is going to give you loads of space, take the space. Like if a team gives you space, take it. Like things like this are pretty important to do, and I don't see that happening really enough. People kind of often are kind of just trying to bunch up into various areas, and
yeah.
people aren't really understanding how defaulting works.
Or
So
if you're a Sova, for example, like the reason why I got pretty mad at Kev yesterday.
yeah,
I'm gonna kind of put him on blast a little bit right now. But like if you're like a Sova, you can use your recon arrow and your drone to stack sites every single round for the first 30 seconds of the round, right? So for example, if you're playing Haven and you have like a breach that's like shooting the tremor thing down short A, you shoot an arrow in that A lobby. No one takes A lobby. Okay, we can just play one person A and we can stack four people to the rest of the map, right? That's such an advantage for about 40 seconds of the round. It's insane. Like, but if your Sova's just playing mid on Haven and the other team just goes mid every round, you're really not gaining anything from a recon arrow or a drone. You're not gaining anything. You're just playing the center of the map. You're playing exactly how you would play without a Sova. So he loses all of his value. But if you're playing C and you shoot an arrow way down at the bottom of C and no one's down there, well shit, like you have a good arrow, of course, that has to clear out everything. Then you can then stack towards garage B and A, and you don't have to play C for about 30 seconds, right? This is how Sovas need to be thinking. Like they need to be thinking, how can I allow my teammates to stack? I'm not playing an individual game. I need to use my abilities to help my team. I know I'm not the like I feel like everyone from CS just expects an in-game leader to just do everything, and that can't be the case in this game. Like everyone has to step up and they have to like provide the information that their agent can, and then the in-game leader uses that information to then like move the chess pieces around or whatever, blah blah blah.
and I've also noticed as well that currently with the way things are going, people and it's the same in CS too. In CS:GO, if you look at any kind of new maps that came in, or just the beginning of most maps in CS:GO, it's usually going to be quite CT sided, just because the attacking side didn't figure out like what are all the nades that they can throw to like actually take away map control and force rotations and stuff. Like the whole tactical aspect of the game was kind of missing, and it has to be developed. And then the attackers actually, in some cases, like in Cash, I think was one of the more extreme ones, then becomes quite in that case, terrorist sided. And I think, similarly in this game, we don't yet have a full understanding of how strong the attack can be just yet. But we have seen that if a team wants to take a site and just like set piece of site, it's actually very hard to stop that. You're going to have to play retakes, because the abilities are just so much stronger inherently than the base utility in CS:GO,
Yeah.
for example. So you're going to be running into teams that are either doing one of two things. Either they're kind of spreading out and kind of just defaulting and pressuring all over the place, at which point they're not really that it's not really that problematic to deal with, because they're spread out and they have to try to take individual fights, or maybe fights just two of them at a time, pretty easy to manage. Or they're trying to set up to set piece something. And so like if they're trying to play that kind of set piece style where they're going to try to barrage at one bomb site, you kind of have to be able to like get a flank going. You have to be able to like take the map control that they don't have, because otherwise you'll get massively punished unless you can retake. And I've seen a lot of teams struggle with that. It is actually really hard, honestly, to retake some of these bomb sites. So if you want to not play retake all the time, you have to have aggressive setups to punish teams that are doing that. And similarly, like if they are just defaulting, you can just wait, and that kind of
Yeah.
sucks because it is boring to just wait. But that's actually kind of what you have to do a lot of the time.
Yeah, I'm sure most of the people that are watching this have encountered one of those intel characters that are just insanely good at figuring out if you're going to an area of the map at the start of a round. So, like an aggressive Cypher, for example, that like throws his camera like in B lobby or some shit on Spore, an aggressive Sova like on Haven that shoots his arrow all the way down at the bottom of C. And they do this every round. It's like a protocol. And even if you break the camera or you break the recon dart, you're still not going to be able to just run into the site. Like, right? They still have ways to make sure you can't just run into the site. So by the time you're able to get into the site, they already have a refresh on the recon dart, or they already have a refresh on their, and you're back to square one, right? That's I've played against those players. It's so fucking hard. It's so hard because you always are running into a stack, because they know how to use the information to move their teammates around. They know how to actually play those characters. And that's why those characters are like essential in team comps, right? For like esport level.
It's actually really interesting too, because one thing that I've been doing a lot in the competitive games is, because if I'm like solo queuing, there's a lot of players on my team that will, for whatever reason, they respect the Cypher camera, or the server who spams arrows and stuff, and they try to avoid it. But I'll actually often try and lurk, and if I come across a server arrow, I let him detect me, because that way I want him to think, shit, someone could actually come to this bomb site, and where and maybe my team's all on the other side of the map, or maybe they're not. But I just want it to be the case that like his information is unreliable, because for me it's like actually triggering almost when Cypher just gets to set up a camera and stuff, and just gets all this free information, and they just
Yeah,
get to stack ones. I feel like I've lost the round already. So it's like I want to
exactly.
like mess with that as much as possible, give them false information by letting them detect me, like let the camera just like send the tracking dart on me, and just let it, just sit on me for a little bit before I kill the dart and stuff, and just like mess with them a little bit.
That's why usually when I'm like Omen on Haven, for example, I'll always smokes like either the middle of long A or deep long C, like towards the site. So that way, if there is a camera anywhere over there, at least he can't get information through the camera. That makes him have to be on the C site for a little bit, right? Now I can like shoot the walls to try to find like the tripwires and all that nonsense. But yeah, it's very difficult to deal with it when you don't try to have one person designated to like take out that camera. You're running into stacks everywhere.
So one thing we were actually discussing right before we went live that we're going to throw in now is that you were saying that you feel like Jet sucks. So do you want
Yeah.
to?
No, so I don't know if she sucks per se, but I think Bind is like the map that she's good on, right? I've come to realize that certain agents are just
I
kind
think
of
she's good on
negated
Vine.
on maps. Yeah, I think she's good on
Okay,
bind,
interesting.
and I think she's good on bind because she can take angles and make people use utility quickly. Like the shower angle on attack, she could take that angle. The long B angle, she could take that angle, and she could work up hookah and stuff like that really quickly. Um, Now, where you run into a problem is on defense. Like she doesn't really provide much for you, right? Like um, she doesn't stall or create opportunities for herself to frag like the other agents do. Like, for example, if you're Brimstone, you have your smokes to stall. If you're Omen, you have your smokes and your flash to stall and coordinate things for your teammates. If you are Phoenix, you have your flashes, you have your wall, you have your molly. All of those things stall, right? They stall people to give you time. For Jet, she just has these three smokes that last like two piece, and it's just like if you get found, the other team can just run you down. Like, yes, you have your dash, but retaking is actually quite difficult in a lot of scenarios on this game. I think Haven retakes are very difficult if the other team, if you play the post correctly. I think the same thing goes for split. Now, bind, on the other hand, I think retakes are way more possible, which is why Jet becomes viable because she can then hop on the APC. She could be super annoying, but you have to be alive to do those things. And it's just, she doesn't provide much value for moving people around the map. Now, I think what we said earlier about like the information, like Sovas and ciphers and all that shit, like moving around the map using that information, those players allow you to move around the map. So even though they can't, even though Sova can't stall as well as the other characters, he can't stall at all, actually. He can still provide information to make you be there ahead of time. Jet is like, oh shit, we're in a bad spot. I'm going to try to make a play and get out of the bad spot. Like, and I just like that on, in my view of how the game is going to operate. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I actually think she's good on Haven, but I actually don't think she's good on Binds. Kind of for the reasons you said, I think that she has limited versus what you could get instead of her, like a different agent. She has limited impact in certain scenarios. But I think on Haven, because there's I think if you put an operator in her hands, especially, and just some of the ways that she can play with teammates to pressure various areas, because there's so many more angles to work with on Haven, she can move around a lot more. And I think that's really her value is trying to be like the rotating AWP that you would see in CS:GO. And
So, but if you put Jet on B, for example, I mean, that's probably where you would say, right? Because you're rotating around. Either that or you would have to play the second player A.
well, it depends. You can pair up player A short, player defensively on C, or aggressively on C, or in
I
garage
mean, if
or in B. You can play
but
pretty much everywhere.
if you're playing C, then people are just gonna work up on you. They're like, if I'm Omen, I'm smoking the end of C, and I'm just like walking up behind my smoke. You have nothing to stop me. It's not like a cipher cage is there or anything like that. Like you got nothing. Like if you're garage at the start of the round, there's so many flashes and shit that come into garage. Like I just don't even know how you stop me. Like I would smoke window, I would flash in, and I would just take it. Now if you're short A, that's where it gets a little bit dicey. And if you're B, I guess you could be like top sight, but I could be peeking you from either angle once I take mid. Like it's just totally random gunfights at that point. Like you just have to aim me. And I don't like being in scenario in like a team environment where I'm just solely relying on aim. I like making people make hard choices, like jumping through a smoke at B and potentially running into a stack or getting the site for free because they made a hard decision, like jumping through a smoke, and we decided to play retake on B, but leave a smoke there. Like, but Jet's not capable of that. So I I just don't know like about defense. Like I don't even know where I'd put her on defense, to be honest.
I mean, that's kind of the thing that I like is that you could because you don't have to like have her hold anything by herself. Like she can rotate around with a teammate so that like on C she's not alone, but she's just playing like a really quirky angle. Let's say let's say you have a Sova on C and you got a Jet on C as well. Sova's mostly playing C by himself. Jet comes across. She plays like a really weird angle in the corner somewhere. She can get an angle into garage. You don't have anybody in garage in that particular round. maybe she's got an operator, she gets a shot off, she can dash into a completely different position, reset
But where is
completely.
her initial position? Like, what is
That's
she doing initially at the start of the round? So assuming it's Haven, right? Because that's what one person that has to play C. You have one person that has to play Garage. You have one person that has B, and then you have two choke points at A. So most people are playing two people at A. You get immediate long A access, which doesn't usually happen. Like people usually contest you for that A choke point. Um, so you're spread out one across the map. So because of there's only 5 choke points on Haven. So you have to have one person at all 5 choke points, unless you're doing the thing like I'm saying, like we have a Brimstone Smoke B, and then you just rotate out of B and you make someone make a hard choice. So where's your initial spot? Because if you're in Garage, you're going to get flashed off. If you're playing a good team, you're definitely going to get like either, breach abilitied in some way, or you're going to get Phoenix flashed through the or Omen flash. No one's just going to come into Garage for free and give you a shot. So how are you going to get your opening shot if you're
Well, that might be the question is as to like how is the other team playing as well? Because there's a lot of teams that don't play like heavy into garage. I think because the thing is, if you do that, you're committing a lot of players away from A pressure as well. So you have to kind of make a choice. I feel like once the team takes garage, I think it's kind of like you can't play A and take garage at the same time. I think. But I think we're getting into like murky territory here because
Yeah.
it's a lot of like information that we don't have in terms of like how setups might look and the meta might look in terms of how do these things actually play out. But I definitely see your point. I think I'll be really interested with Jet to see if people can make her work because I think because I agree with you. I do think she's more of an edge case. That you do need to have like a super mechanically skilled player, and the team has to have a lot of setups. They can't just be a team that plays fairly static. They have to have planned so many defensive setups for it to really make sense.
Yeah.
Because she has to be able to be aggressive some rounds and defensive some rounds, and you have to be rotating people around a lot. I think for it to make
Yeah.
sense. Because otherwise, as
I
you say, you point out where she is, and then you can kind of like just be like, oh, I'll just have that for free then.
Yeah. And then on attack, that's where I feel like her value is increased a lot, because what you could do as Jet is you could just dash across A like every round. You could dash across long A and the person playing long A can't kill you. I've had it happen to me a lot. Like and then if you are playing solo A, it forces you to play a second person A because now you have to watch 2 choke points instead of one. And that's where Jet's value comes in. But I can also do that as Omen. I teleport across and I end up like lurking short A. Or I could even just smoke the center of long A. Like there's so many other ways to do that, which is why I think I don't know. I feel like yeah, like you said, we're getting a murky area here.
Yeah, it's a good time to move things forward a little bit. We wanted to add in an Ask Us Anything segment. So here we go. So that is for you guys in chat to just literally ask me or Sean or both of us or Mike as well. Mike is also able to answer questions. Ask us any questions you like about anything Valorant related.
Ooh, I like this. How do you feel about the complaints centered around the maps? And are there quote unquote too many hallways/corners? And yeah, so this was actually on a tweet that Dan and I both like engaged with yesterday. Dazed, people that didn't come from CS at GODAZED. He tweeted like a massive chain that basically states that the map's designed in such a way that it doesn't really allow you to work picks in like the CS aspect. And the way that Dazed put it in his tweet chain is actually very similar to like how Dan and I explained how we think this game will operate. It's just he's using like different words to do that. So I think Daze is actually spot on with this. Like you cannot work areas solo in this game. Like you won't be able to, at least when you play at higher ranks. You can in lower ranks, but it's so difficult to like work A on split alone, or it's so difficult to work B on split alone against the Cypher. Against good players that actually know what they're doing, you're not going to be able to just one-on-one them because they're going to be so good at their abilities and just knowing the timings of things. And you're just going to have to get lucky with lurk timings almost, or just comboing abilities, right? Without like the Viper wall on split or double omen smokes and shit like that, there's not much shit you can do to work areas solo. It's very difficult.
Yeah, I think that's obviously like impacts the fun right now for people because it just reminds me again like CS. Just like how long did it take us in CS to get some of the things that we really take for granted now? Like even things as simple as like A with smokes on Mirage, like stuff like this does actually improve the quality of the average experience because you have a bunch of people that have now accumulated some basic knowledge, and kind of they get kind of that gratification from having it because now they can do this like cool looking little set piece on a bomb site, even though it's, it's so old at this point. That's something we don't have in Valorant yet, and that level of teamwork is going to be required on pretty much all the maps for people to start being like, oh, this is actually fun. I actually feel like I did something in this game as opposed to just sitting around all the time, which is kind of what's happening right now. People just sitting around and just waiting for the stall utility to go away, and then they'll just slowly move up. And maybe I'll throw a smoke or two.
Yeah, exactly. And that stuff will be found. Like it will be found. That's actually a really good example that you just brought in because I remember times in Counter Strike where the cache A main smoke wasn't invented yet. Like no one thought up to bank a smoke off the wall and have it land to block the A main opper. Or on Dust 2 T side, the B lurk smoke that wasn't created. Like no one found that. Like that wasn't. It's not like that smoke was just found the day the game came out, right? Before it was just people walking up B and hoping no one would be peeking down B tunnels with an. And then now when you watch people hit B, they throw a lurk smoke in front of tunnels, and when they come out, they split left and right and jump on the box, and there's multiple angles for the defender to worry about. So it becomes super fucking difficult to hold B, but just because of one piece of utility, right? That's what these maps are gonna get like eventually. Like eventually, like there's gonna be combos of abilities that happen, and it's gonna be literally impossible for you to hold that area. You can throw counter stuff to stall them, but it's going to be impossible for you to end up holding those areas with certain combos of abilities. And I like that you brought that up with CS. I think that's a really good.
And Racing Rotary asks, how do you feel about the changes to Cypher camera placement above split B garage being removed and the transparency in garage changed while other pre-round cams on the same and different maps remain?
Hmm. I don't know. What do you think?
For me, yeah, there's definitely some cameras that do feel like like they're exploits, like some of the ones in B main on split.
Yeah.
It's like you can't actually like see them or destroy them. It feels like, and they can just tag you. So stuff like that obviously shouldn't be in the game. I think for the developers, they really have to, I guess, understand what value they want Cypher to be able to have at the beginning of a round in terms of the information that he can get. Because should it be the case that he can just basically see the spawn almost of the other team? Should there be like some limitation there? That's like a map design question, and that's like a really interesting thing. I think in the future there's going to be maps that are going to be extremely Cypher favorable, and some that where you won't even want to maybe even pick Cypher. Like Haven, for example, the fact that Cypher can just have a camera that sees all of A long almost immediately is pretty impactful, and makes him a must pick in some respects.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I feel like if your Cypher camera can see me behind my like shield, I should be able to break it in spawn. I know that seems like weird because I would be able to shoot through the little thing and that could create all kind of problems. But if I can see the camera on my you can, by the way, from long A you can see like the little red blinking light in the trees, but you can't do anything about it. Like it's just you're just giving away free info.
Yeah.
You can hug the right wall and it won't see you until you peek out. But the fact that I can see it and it can see me, I should be able to do something about it. He shouldn't be able to just get free info before they even leave their spawn. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit too good. And the camera has a. It's not like if you remove that, the camera is suddenly useless. It's extremely good anyway in lots of different spots. I think the problem is as well is that like because it's so good in these certain spots, we're actually not seeing all of the other areas where it could be really impactful just yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing what people come up with once these camera placements and this kind of meta kind of goes away, if it does. Um, how do we, Dan Roll asks, how do we feel about the pricing of abilities in general? It feels like they're always available outside of pistol rounds at their current pricing.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the pricing on them is a little bit weird, right? It depends on what you want this game to be. Like, I don't know. Like, I like the fact that all abilities are available and that the game requires tons of abilities. But if you don't want that, and if you want the game to function more like Counter-Strike, yeah, you want the abilities to be more expensive, right? And you want people to make decisions about, should I get this ability? Should I not get this ability? You know, I feel like I never have to make that decision right now. That's a good point, and really something I've thought a lot about. But yeah, I've never had to make a very important decision about, like, fuck, do I actually want like one more smoke right now? Well, it's just like, no, I'll buy half armor. It's not like, or like, I'll buy full armor, I'll get like one. But it's not, it doesn't really break the bank. No character has expensive abilities or anything. I feel like I would like there to be that decision making process. It would be cool. Just
So
off the top of my head, what do you think? Do you think that they should raise the price on?
um, so I think the way that you opened your answer is kind of how I feel about it. It depends on how they want the game to be. Because right now, I think the game is a lot about the abilities, and I like the idea that you can always do something with the abilities. I think that they could change the economy a little bit so that it's less possible to have as many gun rounds, maybe just a little bit. But it is a finicky balance to strike. And in this current iteration, I actually think that this is quite fun because I always feel like there's a round where I can do something with my team. And that's really an interesting idea. It doesn't have to be like CS where you're actually so shafted if you don't have any money at all and you can't do anything for a while. Although CS is not even really like that anymore. Um, so the last question, I'm going to pick a last one here. Let's see. Do you want to pick one, Sean? Do you see any that jump out to you that we haven't
Ooh,
answered?
do you think there are certain agents you need to have in a match? I don't think right now in like ranked there are, but I've said on multiple occasions I think Breach and Sage are the best agents right now in the game. I think Sage's abilities allow her to just slow, for lack of a better word, slow down attacks significantly. Or like her slow orb is just OP. Like, if I'm being honest, it covers such a huge area and it lasts a super long time, and she can throw it so goddamn far. So, for example, if you're playing Haven and someone's hitting your site, you could throw a slow orb, and by the time that the other team gets through it, your whole team is there. If you have a good Sage, you put a wall, a slow orb, your whole team's right. If a hit is obvious in any way. And if you are on attack, say you're hitting Haven A site, I can launch a slow orb behind the A site boxes and the rotate into the site and basically guarantee that this guy in the site is about to play us 1-on-5. Like, and he's about to play us 1-on-5 from 2 angles. So he's fucked. Like, he's totally screwed. So Sage is definitely the most OP character in the game. And her ult is really, really good. It revives someone. So she has a perfect kit. She has heals. She has a slow orb. She has a wall that's really strong that can boost her places. Best character by far. Breach has a flash that can go like, however far. That alone makes him better than almost any character because he has the best flash in the game. And in a game like Counter-Strike, you want to take people off of angles. That's the most important thing, right? And especially in a game like this where holding angles a lot of the time helps you out, especially off angles. Flashes forces people off of those angles and gives them to you on attack. Or if you're defending, you can play hiding, and then once they use their abilities, you use your flash to take the angle back. Right? So because of that, Breach is just so valuable, and his ult is insane, and his like tremor thing is really good too. There's just so many abilities that Breach has that are just so long. Now, obviously, I think the info agents are also really good too. So I don't know. I think all the agents outside of those two, though, you can make an argument for.
Yeah, and I think I echo the exact same sentiments. I think that right now agents that have strong delay, like Cypher as well, on top of the Breach and the Sage, are extremely good right now, just because people are not in a place right now where they know the best way to default, the best way to get rid of this utility, and then the best way to maybe abuse some of the things that these agents lack. Um, but with that said, we've come to the end of this Ask Us Anything segment. If you had any questions you were really dying to ask us and we didn't answer, or I didn't have an opportunity to answer it because maybe you're watching the YouTube VOD, please use the hashtag Immortal Minds and send us the questions on Twitter. Tag me and Sean both, and we'll if we get a bunch of questions, we'll just upload a video to the YouTube channel. We'll just answer it after the fact. If you've got loads of questions, so you don't miss out. And with that said, on to the next segment. We've got our agent of the week. It will be Phoenix. We talked about this last week, obviously, and Phoenix was a tricky one because we we didn't exactly know. It's not like Viper where or Sova where we can have all these different lineups and so on, or like Omen where there's a lot of really interesting tricks that he can do by himself to really throw off opponents. Phoenix is kind of a jack of all trades, master of none type of agent. What are the initial thoughts on Phoenix, Sean?
I've been all over the place with Phoenix in the last like 48 hours in my head about like where I think he sits, right? I think he's a solo queue god. I think he can create his own space, he can heal himself, and you can just make plays, right? When people don't know how to use abilities properly. And then when we hopped in a server, it was like, oh shit, these abilities are so weak. They don't heal me enough. They don't, the wall isn't up for long enough. The Molotov's not down for long enough. And my flashes have to be used like close. But then we found out the flashes do the same time regardless of distance. And that was like a game changer for me as far as how I viewed him, because it doesn't matter if you're right in front of a Phoenix flash or all the way down C long on Haven, it still blinds you for 1 second. So you can use them however you want. But I think where I changed on Phoenix in the last like 24 hours is I started to really think about how he can synergize with other people's abilities. And I really like it actually. Because I'm pretty sure, say I'm inside of an Omen smoke as Phoenix, I can flash outside of the Omen smoke and it doesn't blind me, right?
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
requires line of sight to be blinded, so
Yeah.
you have no line of sight to it, so you don't get blinded.
So basically, I would, if I'm a Phoenix, I hop in any smoke I see. Like anytime a team throws a smoke to take an area of the map, if like a brimstone smokes garage window or something like that, I plunge and I go in that smoke and I fucking throw a flash through it when they hit it. You know, like I'll ask my brimstone to counter smoke push, so they're trapped in garage, and then I flash through the smoke and push it. Same thing for an Omen smoke, same thing for a Viper smoke, same thing for a Viper wall, same thing for my own Phoenix wall. I'm basically playing inside of other people's abilities. I'm using other people's shit against 24/7 if I'm Phoenix. That's where Phoenix has tons of value. The more I think about it, it's just like he can destroy people by using their own abilities against them. And I haven't seen a Phoenix actually pull this off like consistent. I've seen it done in like little trick clips and like stuff here and there, but I've spectated a few and no one's super good at it yet, but they will be.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of cool stuff you can do with his wall and the flashes that it does seem that most people with Phoenix are just kind of like almost kind of counter strikey. You're trying to get into a spot to use the flash and then play off of the flash, as opposed to really combining everything at once. And we actually spotted a lot of cool Molotovs with Phoenix because of there are very strange properties to his Molotov, whereby I think it's like once it's been in the air for about 3 seconds, it just drops. It just like whatever wherever it is after 3 seconds, it just drops straight from that point. So you can actually have some really interesting lineups with it, which have been pretty interesting to mess around with. And I haven't really seen anybody with sick Phoenix Molotovs just yet.
Yeah, it's not very intuitive, is what we found out when we did the test stream on Thursday. Is like you throw them and yeah, they just like drop after a certain amount of time. So like you could play back of B site on Haven and you can like lob a Molotov towards the front of site, say as the other team is hitting it, and it'll like be sailing and it'll just drop straight down. Straight down. It doesn't like have any kind of trajectory, it just falls. It's very weird. It creates for not very intuitive throwing of your utility if you come from Counter Strike. Like I'm sure there's going to be crazy people that get really good at it and can throw it properly and stuff like that, but it's not like any other piece of utility in the game, and I don't know why they did it like that. It's so weird. It's such a weird feature to that piece of utility.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is actually good, the Molotov, because there's a lot of like there are limitations to it, but you can do some really useful retake utility. Like for example, if you're on B on Haven, you can toss it over the wall and you can clear those spots when you come out of the spawn door that are the close right corners. You can clear those completely because the spread is instant and it's pretty huge on the Molotov. So there are some really good applications on retakes and really good applications on aggressively with it. It's just that I think it's going to take some time for people to kind of work those out. But with that said, one of our viewers, Peak, had sent us actually a bunch of clips of stuff that he has found with Phoenix. So we'll load up that and just talk about some of the things that we're seeing. Um, we'll see some interesting walls. And actually, what's really weird about Phoenix, obviously, we all know that, at this point that you can curve the walls. This is a kind of a cool play to try to punish anyone holding that angle at the beginning of the rounds.
Yeah, it's really clear when you watch Phoenix's abilities that the devs wanted him solely used for close range fights, right? Because all of his stuff does not go far. Like that's why his Molotov doesn't travel; it just drops. That's why his wall is very close range and disappears after. How long was it? Was it like 7 seconds that we
Yeah.
Six
something like that?
seconds, yeah. Four
Yeah,
seconds on the Molotov.
Oh, that
it's
was
like
it. Yeah.
nothing lasts very long because he should be literally like in the fight at all times.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of interesting. Another property to his Molotov and his wall is that you only need a pixel. It has like the projectiles have no hitbox or whatever. I actually don't even understand it, but you can basically throw it with a pixel gap. You can throw any of his abilities. Like, the Molotov or the wall. It's kind of an interesting tidbit. But yeah, it's interesting with him because one thing too from this like this heaven find was really cool, like getting out of ropes into heaven, but it really seems like he is somebody that's a very intuitive character. We're going to get some people that will have really good reads and have a very good grasp of how to just understand instantly how to use it. That was an example of the pixel gaps you can throw his utility through. But we'll have people that just intuitively understand how to use this kit and just can on the fly do it. And those are going to be the best Phoenix players. It's not going to be, I think, an agent for those who are very methodical, like a Viper. It would perhaps be like the most opposite. Viper's going to be super methodical in how you play her. Um,
Yeah. I just foresee so many cool plays with Phoenix now that like I started to think about it in the last like 24 hours. Like, say you have a Viper on your team, for example, they can synergize so well with a Phoenix, right? Using Viper's wall. Viper's wall is like Phoenix's wall on steroids. Like he can throw flashes on the other side of that and peek throughout pretty much an entire map. Like you give him so many opportunities by putting up your wall as Viper. And then with alt, if Phoenix comes into your alt, he can throw a flash above the alt and exit it at any time. Like that's so sick. Like he works perfectly with Viper. I That's something I'm surprised I didn't think about sooner since I play
yeah,
Viper so much. But there's tons of opportunity, even with Omen, right? Because Omen smokes are hollow. Phoenix can like navigate in them really well and basically coordinate flashes to get out of them. Like you can clear out areas really well with an Omen Phoenix combination. Brim is a little bit different because his smokes are super thick. So, but it would still work the same way. It would just be harder because coming out, you wouldn't have as much vision.
so in that sense, it seems like when we did with the stream on Thursday, because what we try to do every week is we kind of go inside Cypress Lab, as it were. We'd mess around with the characters. We talk about the character, the agents, and what they can do and everything. And we interact with you guys for a couple hours. We kind of came away from that session feeling like Phoenix is not going to be like in the next 6 to 12 months. It's probably going to be super useful, even in the competitive compositions. But once people really know what they're doing and how to synergize, it felt like there's a character, an agent that has a better ability than him for all of his kit that you would probably take instead. So, are we still feeling like that in a sense, or do we think that he's going to be here to stay? Obviously, it's
I
hard to make prediction now, but
I think he's here to stay. I know on Thursday I was really fucking hard on Phoenix, but the
yeah,
more I think about him coming through smokes, through walls from here, now it's very, very dependent on how well your Phoenix works with your teammates. And Like if he's just like fucking spawning and going to hookah every round and then flashing around the corner and wide swinging hookah on bind, fuck that Phoenix. You don't want that Phoenix on your team. But if he's playing like B site bind with like a Viper and the Viper has the wall that goes like throughout the entire site during a hit, and your Phoenix is coordinating with that Viper, like when to flash through and when to make a and your Viper's gonna like peek above the wall and like Phoenix is gonna go through it with the flash. Like there's so many possibilities at that point, right? But so it really depends on the type of Phoenix you're going to play, I think. I mean, it could be that way for any character. Any character has right and wrong ways to use them, in my opinion.
Well, with that, I like it. I like it. It's a positive note on Phoenix. I wasn't necessarily expecting that, but I'm going to take it. We can move on to the final bit of the show, which is to show off some of the clips that you guys have sent us. And again, hashtag Immortal Minds. Tweet both of us at DDK Esports at sgares your clips with Phoenix primarily, but we'll take other stuff too if it's cool. So we have a couple clips here lined up for you guys. Firstly, we have Gil, who is a friend of Mike's and actually a frequent viewer of our streams as well.
That's a nice arrow for the retake. It gets like all of that area.
Yeah, these retake Sova arrows are actually extremely powerful.
Dude, yeah, like imagine having a Sova that spawns and goes A, and then you rotate to B, and he knows like a set arrow that lands somewhere in the B site that tells you exactly where everyone is that's close to you. And then you have like a brim that smokes off hookah. It's like, how the hell is the other team going to hold that site? They would have to have a sage wall up and spawn, like slow, which pretty much is always the case. It's rotating in the slow.
And next we have FX Banner with a cipher play. So we're looking to see a good use of abilities here.
Okay, he took off the hat. He took off the hat. It means business. I like this because he ignores the single player because it's more likely that the two that are together are going to push together to trade. Whereas, that solo guy likely wouldn't push all by himself. Pretty smart. This is a little bit risky how he's just like turning his back because that guy could have been there already.
You got to play with confidence, Sean.
Yeah.
I like it. I thought it was 1 HP. It's 18 HP, so it will die to basically anything. This is a pretty sick series of 1v1s to find as well. Oh,
Yeah. He
dude,
played
this
that
fucking
really well with
man.
the camera. Yeah. Cypher's going to be really hard to deal with in clutches.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I think you said that he basically be like the Zipex. Like you get Zipex on this agent and it's gonna be pretty disgusting. It is awesome when you see ciphers like just like maneuvering their tripwires in the middle of a clutch and their cameras and stuff is actually really compelling to watch. I can't wait to see like what people like once we actually have some pro teams like showing us the peak of this game. I'm really curious to see like how it's gonna look.
Yeah, it's gonna be so hard to deal with really good cipher cameras. It's so hard. It's so frustrating too, when like you're in a clutch and all of a sudden you just get hit with
Yeah.
those cameras and you're just like,
It's so
I've lost. I've lost.
yeah. It's actually so hard to fight that feeling of just like, I'm just done. So
I just
it's like
like
you've lost. But you have to
I
try.
just like the F key so hard. You know the one that like takes the dart out of you? I'm just like, break my F key. I'm pushing it so hard. I'm so mad that it's
All right. Well, with that said, again, remember to send us your clips. We love to show them off on the show. And remember the YouTube video, if you just tuned in and missed anything, will be going live tomorrow in the morning Pacific time. And well, that is going to be myself, Sean, Mike signing off for now. Thank you to everybody who made the show possible. You can get out all the information with the graphics, producing, and the audio in the credits screen to follow. We'll see you guys next time.